The 2024 presidential election is heating up, and Joe Biden has officially released his first campaign advertisement. We're going to talk about it. We're going to react to it here today on Speechless. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 23-year-old conservative college graduate, host of Speechless on Cities 92.9 and other radio stations. But I also do all this content here on YouTube. I do live content as well. So to make sure you don't miss a minute of it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends, all that fun stuff. Definitely subscribe. Keep this growing. We got the Speechless Army. It's going to be huge, and we're going to love it. So we got a lot to talk about here today, guys. And the first things first, like I said, the 2024 presidential election is heating up. Today, Chris Christie dropped out of the race. He won't be attending the debate that's happening tonight as I'm recording this. Crazy. But Joe Biden, the only person that it seems is really running on the Democrat ticket. There's a lot of other rumors of people that might jump into the race. Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, things like that. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But Joe Biden, Biden-Harris 2024, it's official. It's happening. And this advertisement, it's called Cause, C-A-U-S-E, has been released just within the last week here. And it seems to be Biden's rallying cry for 2024. What Americans should remember when they're going to the polls and why they should vote for Joe Biden. All of those things. So let's watch this ad. We'll react to it together and talk a little bit about what it means for this upcoming election year. Let's take a look and a listen. Cause, Biden-Harris 2024.
I've made the preservation of American democracy the central issue of my presidency. I believe in free and fair elections and the right to vote fairly and have your vote counted. There's something dangerous happening in America. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy?
Okay, so here's what it is so far. He starts off with, I believe in free and fair elections. I believe in free and fair elections and preserving free and fair elections. And then quickly the tone shifts. Starts off very positive and hopeful, and then quickly the tone shifts and it goes, oh, but there are extremists. Extremists. That's the term they always use. Extremists that want to take that away from you. And then he does the B-roll of January 6th. Oh my gosh, it's America's second 9/11 to the left. That's essentially how they see it. And they want to take that right away from you. They want to take that right away from you. Now, here's what he's doing so far. Not only is he basically calling half of the American population, and when I say half, I'm serious, half of the American population just about voted for Trump in the last election. And he's not just saying that it's, I want to be clear, he's not just saying that it's the people that were inside the Capitol on January 6th that are the extremists. No, to him, it's all MAGA Republicans. Those are the extremists. Those are the extremists. Out of his own mouth. He says it all the time. I mean, he just said it at a black church service the other day. That's the issue. It's Trump Republicans. If you support Trump, you are the extremist. You are the problem. You are the threat to free and fair elections to Joe Biden. That's essentially what he's saying in this advertisement right here. Oh, but now here's how you really protect it. Here's how you really protect it. Keep listening.
Watching. The world is watching. And most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible. The Vice President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration. And I ask every American to join me in this cause.
So I don't know if you guys could hear it in the audio there, but they cut audio a little bit. So they definitely cut some of that from part of a speech. So Joe Biden didn't do all of this. I mean, I would be surprised if anybody would do all of this in one take. You usually do different lines by lines. I mean, I've done radio advertisements. I get it. But they cut that from a speech. You could tell based on the way the audio was and how it changed and how it shifted. Interesting. Just something to point out.
America is still a place of possibilities where the power resides with we, the people. That's our soul. We are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message. Very interesting stuff out of the current president of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden, and an entire ad that basically says the focus of his campaign is against you. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, you might be watching and you might not be a MAGA Republican. You might not be a Trumpster. You might actually be a Joe Biden voter. You might be, and that's perfectly fine. But he comes out, and his whole thing is his whole pitch is essentially not much different than his 2020 pitch. It's that the other guy is bad. See, right now, Donald Trump is the current front runner for the Republican nominee for 2024. It would seem as though we are going to have a Biden-Trump rematch in 2024. Now, instead of running on a great economy or border security or pretty much any accomplishment, this is the guy that has been on president for almost 4 years. Instead of running on pretty much any possible accomplishment, his entire advertisement is about how the other guy is a threat. And the people that support him are threats. They're extremists. Remember, they're extremists. And so that's why you need to vote for Joe Biden. Not because he's good at anything, not because he's actually done anything for you. The common question asked of voters around presidential elections is, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Now, 4 years ago, we were into COVID. It was just about COVID and things were getting bad. So you might have a different answer. But really think to yourself, are you better off 4 years ago? Were you better off under a Trump presidency or a Biden presidency? And there's even questions as to whether or not Biden could make it into another term. But remember that his pitch to you in his first advertisement isn't look at all the good things I've done. No, he went negative on the first ad. On the first ad of his 2024 presidential run, he went negative. And what do I mean by that? Now, he didn't necessarily say Trump by name, but there were plenty of Trump flags in there. And based on his rhetoric and the rhetoric that he's had in the past, you can assume who he's talking about. No, he went negative against Trump in the first ad when Trump isn't even the definitive nominee yet. That's how you know it's against you. He'll say his presidency is about we the people. But no, his presidency is only for those that support him. And when I say support him, I don't even just mean by voting for him. I mean those that financially support him. How do I know this? Because he supports policy that the majority of Americans don't even support. When you look at, he had the transgender influencer that came, and he's all about this pride stuff. The majority of Americans are not as far left and as far extreme on the pride support as Joe Biden is. I guarantee you, when you look at his economic policy, the majority of Americans do not support it. The majority of Americans do not support having essentially an open border. He is not about we the people. He's about me. And not me, Kevin Phares. No, he's about me, Joe Biden. And what's going to advance me? And what are the people around me telling me to do? That is who Joe Biden is. But there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not Joe Biden will even be fit to run for office in 2024. But here's what that ad is also prepping for. That ad is prepping so that they can say, no matter what, that it was rigged against them the entire time. That's what happened in 2016. Before the election even happened, Hillary Clinton was saying she was worried that Russia or some foreign entity would interfere with the election. On the news, go back, look it up, happened. And then what happened? In 2016, election results were denied, and we ended up having multiple year probes into the potential that Trump interfered with Russia. And for so long, it was Russia, 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 and Trump and Putin. And that was the issue. Well, and then it comes out in the Durham report that none of that ever actually happened, and Hillary Clinton lied about it, Obama lied about it, and they knew they were lying. But that's what they're prepping for. And don't believe me? Well, they're prepping not only for the fact that Joe Biden might not be able to run again, they're also prepping for the idea that maybe somebody will have to step up in his place. And hoping that they can blame their likely loss in 2024 on something else. And here's my perfect example of that. Michelle Obama just this last week went on a podcast and she was asked on this podcast as to what keeps her up at night. And so if you've ever sat at home wondering, oh, Michelle Obama, I wonder what keeps you up at night. If that's what keeps you up at night, is that what keeps you up at night? What is Michelle Obama thinking about? What is keeping her up at night? Oh my God. Well, you get your answer. And so let's take a look and a listen at this clip of what keeps Michelle Obama up at night. I'm sure you were all on the edge of your seats wondering. Here's that.
What keeps me up are the things that I know. The war in the region, in too many regions. What is AI going to do for us? The environment, are we moving at all fast enough? What are we doing about education? Are people going to vote? And why aren't people voting? Are we too stuck to our phones? I mean, those are the things that keep me up, because you don't have control over them. And you wonder, where are we in this? Where are our hearts? What's going to happen in this next election? I am terrified about what could possibly happen, because our leaders matter. Who we select, who speaks for us, who holds that bullied pulpit. It affects us in ways that sometimes I think people take for granted. The fact that people think that government, does it really even do anything? And I'm like, oh my God. Does government do everything for us? And we cannot take this democracy for granted. And sometimes I worry that we do. Those are the things that keep me up.
Do we take this democracy for granted? No, look, I'll actually agree with her on something. I'll agree with her on the fact that our leaders do matter. Who holds that bully pulpit? Who holds the power does matter. It absolutely does. And maybe I'm digging too deep into it. But is she making a slight there? Is she making a slight jab, potentially? Look, there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors as to whether or not Michelle Obama will step in the event that Joe Biden will not be able to run for president in 2024. Now, the likelihood of that, in my opinion, is very, very slim. There is no chance Kamala Harris would ever let that happen. No, Kamala Harris has been frothing at the mouth for that opportunity. She said it on multiple occasions. There was an interview that she did not too long ago in which she was asked, would you be ready? And she basically, she smiled and that little cackle. That's essentially what she did. She was ready. So that would never happen, or that would likely not happen. But is Michelle Obama making an innuendo that potentially Joe Biden would potentially not be able to run again? I don't know. But here's what else she's doing. It's just like what I said earlier. Michelle Obama is preparing to be able to tell you that the 2024 election was against them because people don't understand the war in Russia and Ukraine. And somehow that affected it. Or we aren't doing enough on climate change. They're trying to start sewing the quilt, the proverbial quilt, that the election will be rigged against them. When in reality, I've told you this before, what keeps me up at night is worrying about what the Democrats will do to rig 2024. Don't believe me? As I've said multiple times on this show, they consistently stew racial divisions. They stir the pot in racial divisions to pull African Americans back into the Democratic plantation. They do it 100%. Michelle Obama is a part of that. In 2020, we had the coronavirus pandemic, which we now live with when nothing much has changed. We have the vaccine that doesn't actually stop the spread, anything like that. And I might get canceled now because of that. But we have all of these things that the Democrats have done to ensure that all the elections are skewed in their favor in some way. And we could argue in terms of election fraud. I'm not getting into any of that stuff. But they can control the narrative through the media and scare people enough into voting for them. So don't fall for it, and recognize that they are already sewing that proverbial quilt of lies so that they can claim that 2024 will be rigged against them. 2024 is going to be a crazy year, everybody. I am absolutely positive of that. I've said that multiple times on this show, so be ready. But in the meantime, everybody, to make sure you don't miss a minute of any of this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, you've been watching Speechless.